Hello and welcome to the Zakariya Adeel Podcast. I am Zakariya Adeel, your humble host, and today on the show we have a lady called Jocelyn Jones. Yes, JJ. She could almost be a Marvel character, couldn't she? So who is Jocelyn Jones? So she is an actor and acting teacher, and she's been teaching for 30 years. She works to develop her clients' self-confidence through a variety of techniques that she's developed, and she's written a book called Artist, which came out about a year ago. And this is Artist: Awakening the Spirit Within. It's part memoir and part blueprint to awaken and connect to the true artist within. There's also a new series that's coming out called In Class with Jocelyn Jones, and where we get to learn lessons alongside her students. So definitely check that out also. Jocelyn, have I missed anything out? Is there anything else that you would like to tell us about yourself?
No, I was surprised that you mentioned the documentary coming out. It's not here quite yet, but we've been working on it for a little over 3 years now,
Oh,
and
I
it
can't
should
wait
be
for
out
that.
in the next month. And it's, people don't really know what goes on in acting class, and so one of my reviewers was wonderfully said, if you've ever wondered what goes on in a professional acting class,
Mhm.
watch this series. So yeah.
I did train back in the day in 2 years as part of a amateur dramatics theatre company. And so I did do 2 years of Stanislavski, and then afterwards I've done a variety of different styles of acting, but I did kind of settle on Meisner, and I did do quite a lot of Meisner training. How do you teach? What is it that you teach?
Well, I started out with Sandy Meisner, and I studied with him when he was still alive, and that wasn't for me necessarily, but I was very rebellious. I don't know if you've read this part of the book, but I was very rebellious and very critical of teachers.
I saw that part.
And so then I studied with Lee Strasberg because these were the giants of the time. And Lee was a beautiful director, and he taught actors a lot through behavior. He would direct them into certain behaviors. And then I discovered, this behavior connects you internally to, and it tells the story of what's going on internally with the actor. And then I studied with a man named Milton Katselis in Los Angeles, who's gone now. But Milton had studied with Lee, and he really took all of the components of those Stanislavski teachers. Stanislavski was brought to the country, and then everyone interpreted him in a different way. So
Yeah.
Lee interpreted one way, and Sandy another, and Uta Hagen another, and and so they all kind of had these factions
Mhm.
of how they thought, what they thought Stanislavski was all about. Stanislavski and the system was really a system that an actor had a process that he could count on. And so when I studied with Milton, who I first started teaching for, he had a meat and potatoes technique that basically existed within questions that the actor would ask and answer for themselves. And it worked, and it was smart, and I saw it applied. And so I began teaching with that kind of technique, um, which is basically to really to exist. We have trouble being in life. We're human beings who don't know how to be. Being is to be in the moment, really to exist without all the thinking. Um, so my techniques involve things like observing, which is, observing without judgment, not observing in order to say, I know this, I'm going to observe this. Yes, I know that. I know this, I know this, I know that. Can't discover anything if you already know. And we're trained to observe with judgment. So we observe things and we go, yes, look at how he's doing that. I could do that better. Or, we observe strangely. But when you take in the world, when you practice like a meditation, observing without judgment, you open space and communication between you and that which you're observing. And so that creates a meditative state where you're being in the moment, observing, whether that's making a cup of coffee and really paying attention to the particulars, embracing the fact that this coffee, this delicious smelling thing, came into your kitchen from an unbelievable process. You know, it had to be sent from here and packaged there, and you know, and now here it is in my hands, and I can enjoy, you know, the warmth, and I can have water that comes out of a tap. You know, so many people can't have water. This is all a miracle. This is a miracle if we observe it in that way, if we're open to it.
Yeah.
So different kinds of techniques, all to create, you know, I think that the reason people admire actors so much, they're like our royalty, is because they remind us of how many times we've lived and how many characters we've, you know, inhabited. And when actors do that effortlessly and really become another character, when they create life in front of our very eyes, you know, we go, oh my goodness, we kind of realize that our life is in our own control. You know, maybe I could do, if he can create life out of thin air, maybe I can do a little better with my own. And really, that's what the book is, I'm trying to do, is to tell the individual that there's an artist in you and your life is your first masterpiece. It's in your control, and you can connect to your, whatever you want to call it, your inner, you know, your heart, your higher connection, the artist within, the spirit within, yourself as a spirit. You know, there's so many different ways to look at it, but you can connect to your own innate knowledge, that knowingness that, you know, we've all experienced. When we know it, something runs in us and we know it, you know, like you were saying, the first time I saw you, I knew something, I knew that we had met. You know, there's a knowingness. I talk about that knowingness. So I really, as a teacher, was interested in the spiritual aspects of art and artists and actors, and how to guide them to a technique so that I believe this. I believe that an artist, it's not about his talent. He's such a talented artist. She's such a talented artist, although we tend to say that. But really, artists, and the dog agrees with me, artists vibrate at a higher frequency. And when you vibrate at a very high frequency, you can pick up things out of the ether, out of the ethos, from higher consciousness that desires to be expressed either in a painting or a character or in a piece of writing. You know, it wants, this is its time. It wants to move humanity in a certain direction. And I believe that, you know, it is the artists only ever who have discovered, you know, insights and inspirations that will move man in a higher direction.
So I find that really interesting. I remember you said that somewhere else, and that really resonated with me, because back in the day, I wrote a story, because I trained in screenwriting, and then I went to become an actor after that. I wanted to be a writer performer. I wanted to be Jennifer Saunders. I wanted to be Ricky Gervais. You know, I wanted to write and perform comedy, Rowan Atkinson. So but writing was my natural talent, and I trained in acting afterwards. And I struggled a little bit with acting because I wasn't sure if it was right. It was right for me. I'm not an actor. I'm a writer. So when I perform my own stuff, there's a much more life to it. Whereas when I've tried to do other stuff, I'm okay, but I'm better in my own stuff. This dog, what do you want, Bubba? But what I was going to say was that back in the day, I wrote a script, an idea I had in my head, which is very, very similar to the Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. And I even drew the glove with the crystals on it. And I drew this back in, I think it was 1999 or 2000, something like that. But what's interesting is around that time, I think a bit before, a few years before, is when that storyline came out in the comics. So basically, the same time as I was having that idea is the same time that it actually came out. So I wrote it, but I didn't do anything with it. It's in my asterisk folder over there. But the story came out as a comic at that time. So it's interesting.
This is a very, very common theme with artists. And Tom Petty has a story about that. There's a poet. My favorite story is an American poet, a woman who lived in the Midwest on a farm, and she talked about being out. She had many acres, and so she was out in the fields, and she suddenly felt this poem coming in, like a storm would roll in. This poem coming in, and she took off to get back to the house. She ran and ran and got back to the house, to her desk, grabbed a piece of paper, grabbed a pencil, and kind of grabbed the tail end of the poem and wrote it down, and it came out backwards.
Oh, wow.
And she said she felt like if she had not done that and run to the house and grabbed that poem and written it down backwards, that it would have moved on to another poet.
Yeah.
And Tom Petty tells the same story, that he was driving in his truck and he could feel the song coming on, and he had another 15 miles before he was going to go to the motel. And he prayed, he got in communication with it and said, please, I want to receive this so much. Can you just wait until I get to the motel? So it's, there is an inspiration in the ether. And when we meditate and when we recognize that, we realize things like how much we take for granted. You're in a room, I'm in a room that's, quite beautiful, and it has 4 walls. And then it has all this space between those 4 walls. And we don't think about that space. We just think, oh yeah, that's just space. That's not just space. There is no such thing on this planet of that's just anything. That is, if you communicate with that space, if you allow yourself to be in that space, you will receive guidance.
I find that really interesting. I know that Stephen King, in his book On Writing, talks about digging for ideas and getting there before somebody else gets there. So I think there's different people describe it in different ways, but there seems to be a thing of connecting to a frequency and then having information come to you, channeled down to you.
Yeah. I mean, much of the book is channeled. I read the book sometimes and I go, I don't remember writing.
Yeah.
I don't remember writing. And I'm always saying thank you. I'm always saying, oh, thank you. What a good concept. Thank you. That's really
my
good.
first book, I'll quickly, 1 second, I'll just quickly get it and show you. My first book is called Secrets of the Combined Astrology, and it took me 9 years to write. And I would say the majority of this, I did do some research. For each of this is the 144 charts. There's 12 Chinese signs, 12 Western signs, 12 times 12 is 144. So this is the big book that's got a short sort of essay for each of the charts, whereas you can buy your individual charts. Well, I sent you your individual chart. But this took me 9 years. My pleasure. This took me 9 years to do. And once I got all of the information in front of me, it was just a case of joining the dots, and the information just came. It's like when I would do a tarot reading, it just comes. I lay down the cards, look at them, and then I talk really, really quickly because it just comes like a rush of wind straight through me, and I've got to do it really quickly. I have to type quickly, I have to speak quickly. So I know what you're talking about. The channeling.
Yeah. Teaching is like that as well. You have someone before you who has just done this, given their heart to really expose themselves from the bottom of their heart. And usually, I feel the space before they talk about the work. I train them, tell me what it was you wanted to accomplish. Tell me how you think that went, because I'm teaching actors to direct themselves, so they have to have a sense of, I wanted this and I got 80% of it, but I missed this 20%, so that the next time around they can get that 20%. I want them to be very conscious and not, oh, it was so emotional acting, I can't talk. I mean, give me a moment to breathe. No, there are no moments. We're in communication here. And so they talk about their work. And while they're doing that, not only am I just absorbing them, but I'm also opening up to the space around them and saying to myself, how can I help this actor? And it comes in, people say, oh, Jocelyn, it's really creepy, studying with her because she's psychic. I'm not psychic. You're actually delivering that to me. You are giving that to me. because you want me to touch on it, you want me to point it out. It is the time in your life. So I've been known to say, are you taking drugs? And they're very honest with me. I guess if you
Yeah.
put yourself out there that honestly, they feel a safe place, or they, thank God, feel a safe place. And they go, no, I haven't for years.
But you have to be a
And
certain person, though, Jocelyn. You have to be a certain person that can create the environment in such a way so that when you do ask that question, they can feel safe enough to say that back to you. Is what you're saying,
yes,
create a safe space. But it
yes, I
doesn't
think they're
happen with
creative.
everybody at all. I mean,
No.
no.
No, but in this particular case, the person had been, and I picked it up and I said, it was an opiate. Yes, it was heroin, but I haven't taken heroin in 7 years. And I said, it's still on you. And she said, well, that's because I used to score heroin 2 blocks away from here. And I
Oh,
said,
how
oh,
interesting.
you have to come and study with me at the other theater. You can't study at this theater. You're not ready to be in this
Oh,
neighborhood
that's so
again.
interesting that you
Yeah.
picked up on
So
that, and that there was
that
something there.
you just pick up these things and can kind of make adjustments, because somewhere in this woman was, I love studying here. I wish the theater was in another place,
Mm,
That's all I picked up. And the bottom line to that is trust. The
hmm.
bottom line to you writing that book and pulling it and saying, well, I have to talk fast and I have to write, but you are trusting that it's coming in for a purpose.
Hmm.
It won't come in if you don't trust. Nothing's going to come in unless they feel that openness and
Yeah.
that really gratitude as well.
Well, for me, it's the most natural thing ever. I've always written, even as a young child, I've always written. I won
Mm-hmm.
a competition when I was 13, a essay writing competition. Um, and also, we didn't have any toys. We grew up in such severe poverty that all we had was paper and pens. So we drew, I would make games, but most of the time would just write stories,
Mm-hmm.
scripts. More than prose, I wrote scripts. And then I would
Mm-hmm.
get my siblings to
Stories,
act them
yeah,
out. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's healthier not to have toys. It's healthier
You
to
think?
build your own dollhouse. Yes, because
Yeah.
it stimulates your imagination, and imagination is everything.
Mm,
One of the problems in the world today is that we're not honoring imagination. We're not creating a space for young people to imagine. This is the importance of reading, and young people aren't reading. And the reason we have such a, problem with the illiteracy in the country is because of the screens.
hmm.
If you can get all the pictures delivered to you, then you don't have to put sentences together and create the pictures yourself. But the
Yeah.
magic of books is you read a book and I read a book, and we make two different movies in our heads,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and with our imagination. So if we could, again, going back to education, we need to encourage the child's imagination. When you give them the toy, it's not nearly as valuable as
Hmm.
writing the story yourself. Is watching a Disney show.
Yeah.
What's more valuable? What is a bigger offering? Passive, watching a screen, active imagination, writing a story and having people act it out.
Well, in
So
the in the
what's,
80s, we didn't have much. There wasn't that much TV growing up in the 80s. So we had 4 channels in the UK until 2000, and then we had an extra
yeah,
channel, 5 channels. So we had to make our own entertainment. Also, we could play in the streets at that time. It wasn't an
yeah,
unsafe environment. We used to be able to
yeah,
just play
yeah,
play out and about.
yeah, yeah. And my book starts out that way. It starts out when I'm 5 years old and I ran around New Hope, Pennsylvania. There
Oh,
was a
I read that
river
part.
on one side of me and there was a canal on the other side of me, and I think we learned to swim early because my parents were afraid we'd drown. But we just ran. I had maybe at least a square mile, that I would just run and go to the woods and play at the river and
And you had your
have
adventure to go to get your sweets on the other
adventures.
side.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Are you in England now?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in
Oh,
London. I live in South London.
it's
Um,
a miracle of that.
yeah, isn't that amazing? Isn't it
Yeah,
amazing? Before we
yeah.
move away from books, though, I wanted to ask you what 3 books really inspired you growing up or just in your life?
I would say To Kill a Mockingbird is one of my favorite books ever. as a child. That's the first book I read that I thought, oh, books, stories, and also New Hope, Pennsylvania was not unlike that little southern town that she grew up in, and she was running around and being wild. So I really identified with Scout, and I had an older brother and she had an older brother. So that book started me on the love of literature. Recently I read a book of, I think it's All the Light You Cannot See. I'm reading Michelle Obama's book, The Light We Carry, but All the Light We Cannot See is a magnificent book, a poetic book about Paris during World War II. It's an amazing book.
I haven't heard of it at all.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. And I have to say I started reading the I Ching, at a very young age.
Of course I have that.
That took me many, many places, the I
Mm-hmm.
Ching. I love Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, and The New Earth is
I
the
like The
best
New
of them.
Earth. I struggle with The Power of Now. I still have it here, I think, but I struggled with that one. I liked A
I
New Earth.
understand. Yeah, he needed to write that book so that he could write A New Earth, I think.
That makes sense.
But A New Earth is spectacular.
It was brilliant. It was really good, yeah. And especially with that time when Oprah was doing that whole thing, it was the time for A New Earth. Led us to 2012 when the Mayan calendar ended, and also another big date in the astrological calendar was the 21st of December 2021. That opened the door to the age of Aquarius. So we're still not there, but we are heading towards there. The energy shifted. So yeah.
I have a student who became an astrologist. Do you know Michelle Caron?
No, I don't.
She's a world-class astrologist. She's lovely.
I'm a Chinese astrologer primarily, so that's the sort of
that's
stuff
different.
Slightly different, yeah. But yeah, so I did your meditation just before coming on.
Which one?
The breathe in stillness and breathe out peace, and smile. I smile. I did it for just 10 minutes, and I tend to do guided meditation. So I lie down, but I did this sitting up with my palms on my lap, and it didn't take me that long to get into it. It was really easy. And I haven't had that experience with meditations either. Just doing the breathe in stillness. And I know that you do want to breathe into your heart. So actually I was visualizing breathing it into my heart as well, just because I did that one before. So breathe in the stillness and breathe out peace. By the end of it, I really was so comfortable that I could have fallen asleep. If I'd carried on just a few more minutes, I think I would have been so comfortable. I could have just, rested after that. But it really did. It really did do something. I got a bit drowsy almost, but it did pull me out of my overthinking, because it was quite easy to come back to the breath.
What it does is it creates space around you, the air, and then you open, and it creates space, and it puts you in spirit. It creates a beingness in you, as opposed to a thinkingness. The thinking is the ego. The being is the heart, and we are taught with the ego, and the ego, we don't even have to have it socially that way. It just, the ego is very powerful, and it wants to run the show, and that the ego protects us, and the ego makes us right, and ego, all that thinking, what did I say? Did I say the right thing? Am I going to say the right thing? Am I going to make a mistake? It's, oh, she's a bitch, he's a, whatever. And that's all ego, fighting for a higher level and fighting for control. And the simplicity of breathing and being, we're not trained or taught towards simplicity. And simplicity is a beautiful thing. The truth is very simple. It's lies that are complicated.
So do you use these techniques with your actors in your studio? What about the ones that come in and they do have ego? Some actors are really humble and down to earth, but you do get those actors that come in that have a huge ego and are quite narcissistic. How do Do these, like for example, that meditation, do these techniques work to sort of get them to be a bit more humble and close the door on their ego whilst they're working?
Well, yes, they do, and they do meditate. I don't necessarily give them these. I'm giving them these now. You know, with acting, I was involving spirit in an acting class, which I don't know anybody who's done that. And now I'm taking the book and I'm giving the book as further for students. But to answer your question, you know, I would. I think of teaching as a calling. And so even though, you know, I always thought, oh, do I have to do this? I interviewed every student and
Hmm.
I wouldn't take people who were, you know, the way you described because it was bad for the room and I can't help them. You know, my mother was a classic narcissist who ignored me, you know, my whole childhood. And
Hmm.
you know, you pay. I learned very late in life that that's very hard on a child. I just
Of
thought, well, you
course.
know, they put a roof over my head and they fed me and they didn't say horrible things to me, although she did.
Yeah.
But you know, what's the big deal? I'm fine. Because also I think people who have been ignored like that, or at least I refuse to be a victim. I refuse to be a victim. I take responsibility for it. Something has brought me to this moment, and it's my responsibility to figure out what the lesson is.
Hmm.
And so I tried my whole life to heal that relationship. And when you get to the end of the book, there's a very big chapter on her death and how I closed the studio and stopped teaching and came to see her out, to be with her, because she had alienated everybody in the world. And I tried my whole life to heal that relationship. So when it walks in the door for me to teach it, I realize I cannot,
Hmm.
I'm not going to be successful with this person. And I
Hmm.
want to be successful as a teacher. I don't want to take somebody's money and, you know, I mean, I have students who study with me on and off for 20 years.
Wow.
So, but they do that because they're creating careers and they're getting better and they go and they do a series and then they come back and we work on something else. They say, "What's next?" I said, "Oh, I think we should. How about Broadway?" You know,
Oh, I wish you were here. Do you ever work in
uh,
London?
I would love to work in London. I'm going to. I'm starting to do more events. I have a book signing I'm doing at Zibby's bookstore. Zibby is a fantastic character and a really important woman in literature. So I'm doing a book signing there. I'm going to talk about the book, but I'm also going up to the San Francisco Bay Area to do a day long. And this is where I thought the book would go, that I would go and do, you know, day long seminars, 3 day seminars that combined, you know, I want to help people, not just actors. I love actors, but I spent my life helping actors. I want to help lost people. I wrote the book because I think people are lost
Mm.
and they don't need to be lost. That when you make this connection with your heart, with yourself, with the artist inside, with your higher self, when you actively make this connection and ask questions
Hmm.
of this part of yourself, you're never lonely again.
Hmm.
You're never lonely again. All you have to do is be honest with it. You know, I have the big question that's in the book is if you could have anything in the world, barring all obstacle, what would that be? And most people can't answer that very quickly. And I say that's okay. Keep asking. Ask it for 3 times a day. Ask it for a week. Ask it for a month. Ask it for a year. Ask yourself that question until something moves in you because the truth is visceral. You'll feel it. It'll feel like you're something. What is that? You know, that's what
Hmm.
I teach actors is to grab that impulse and put it into behavior. I'm always going, take it there and put it there.
Okay,
So, and it's
I
quick.
want to discuss law of attraction as well because I saw in your book that you've mentioned that. So
Yes.
you were talking about how when you manifest from a low vibration, you attract things you don't want. So you have to be
Yeah.
high vibration first before you do the law of attraction. Well, we're attracting all the time anyway. So you
Yes.
have to be a high vibration in order to attract the things that you actually want. How does one do that?
Okay. Well, there are exercises in the book that will help you raise your vibration. But let's start with this. You are, I am, we are all exactly where we are at this moment, because this moment is really all there is. We've arrived here by everything we have thought, and everything we have done has brought us to this moment. And if somebody, is across the street and shoots a gun through my window, somehow I have brought myself to this time and place. And in knowing that, get that away, in knowing that, you tend to take more responsibility for your thoughts and your actions if you believe that, that's what we don't want to do. We don't want to take responsibility. We want to be victims. We want to be at effect of things, and this book is all about you're not affected anything. You are where you are by your thoughts and actions. So let's work with that. Let's change the thoughts. Let's change the actions. The things that will raise, I tell a story in the book because people love actors and understand them. I had an actor in class who was, he had been on a very big series, a really big series, and he was the star of the series for 7 years, and it made him a television star. And then that series ended as series 2, and it had ended. I'd been working with him for years, but at this point that series had been over for 7 years, and he was still trying to put something together that felt as good as that series. And he was in class. We were working on lessons that had to do with actors and television. We have to, decide things quickly and please the director and move on fast. And that leads to glib acting. Give yourself, really, it's just about a quarter of a second that you intend to be there. Hard to do on a set with an entire crew of people.
Mm-hmm.
But more than that, he looked very unhappy to me, and I knew he was not going to attract this big series being that unhappy. And so I took him for coffee and I said, what's going on? And he said, he was separated from his wife, but he had been separated for 4 years, and he was living in the house, and her shit is still here. And I said, okay. And I said, how are you drinking? And he goes, so you're drinking too much? He goes, yeah. I said, and who are you sleeping with? Because I think you're sleeping with everything in a skirt. He goes, yeah, I said, okay. And what's with your hair? You buzzed your hair. You're the little puffy from the drinking. You need to grow your hair out. You're a leading man. All leading men have long hair. Grow your hair out. Stop drinking. Stop fucking everything that moves. And call your wife and say, get your shit out of the house by this date, or I'm going to put it in a pod and leave it on Melrose Avenue. And so he didn't do that. He did stop drinking. He did grow his hair out. He took his ex-wife to dinner and asked her to come back to try again. And she said no. And he said, okay, come get your shit out of the house. So he felt he had completed that.
Yeah.
And then he, after that, he sold the house. He met a woman, married her, had a child, and booked a major series, which he has now been on for 5 years. So, that's what I mean. And okay, so here's how I did this. I not only told him to do those things, I said, you need to bring me a joy list. So joy list. I said, you need to bring a joy list. I want you to write down 10 things that bring you joy. He came back the next week. He said, Jocelyn, and this is very telling. He said, I have one thing. I go, what is it? He said, golf. I said, great. Did you put that on your schedule? I'm playing golf on Saturday. Great. Are you excited about it? Yeah. And you could see. Yeah, I'm excited about it. Okay. Next week, you come back, you bring me 5 more things. Now, here's what I want you to do. Go back to your childhood. Go back to the beginning. What brought me joy? What did I like? It turned out he came back. He had 5 things. One of them was baseball. I think softball, baseball, maybe baseball. I'm not very into sports. So he joined a softball team and loved it. Joined a team. They were doing games. Now he's playing golf. He's playing softball. He's reading books because that was one of them. And so I tell people, make a joy list and then put those things on your calendar, because it's not enough to go, I used to love to read books. But if you read, 3 books in a month, and that's your great passion, your vibration will come up. You will experience more joy, and you will experience more joy because you are also actively contributing to your own life. And then the other great that goes hand in hand with joy is gratitude. You can look around at any given moment and say, I am grateful for the water that comes out of the tap warm when I'm washing the dishes, and then I enjoy washing the dishes. So do the things that bring you joy. If you love to go to the beach, go to the beach. This is why I tell dancers, I've discovered, well, you're a dancer. Oh, well, I was. I haven't danced in years. Yeah, you're going back to class. And then, if they don't go back to class, then I say, you need to find a teacher where you will do what they ask you to do, because that's what their job is, to help you. Okay, I'll go to class. They go to class. Why don't you want to go to class? Because I won't be as good as I was. Who cares? You're a dancer. Dancers have to dance. Can you imagine taking surf? I took surfing away from a guy one time. I said, you spend more time surfing than you do on your career. You can't surf for the next 2 months. I want you to take all the time. I want you to measure it. This is how much time I put into surfing. Now I'm going to put that time into my career. He jonesed. It was like I took heroin away from him. He goes, I can't give up surfing, because that was his joy. Surfers are very joyous on the sea there, So does that answer the question?
Yeah. So do the things that you love to raise your vibration, and then manifest from there.
It's your life. It's your life. Make it a masterpiece.
But what happens if the last for me personally, the last few years have been a bit difficult, and I've gotten to myself, like, I've put on a lot of weight because I have a problem with eating. I'm overeating. I'm binge eating. I'm emotionally eating at the moment, and I have been for the last year, since May, June last year. I think something happened, and I have struggled to get a grip of my eating situation. Because of that, other things have fallen by the wayside as well, because I don't know, somehow if you're on a downward spiral, other things sort of go along with that.
Let me address that for you, because many people have this problem. First of all, you just said 4 sentences in a row. I have a problem with eating. I have a problem with my weight. Every time you say I have it, you might as well you're just injecting yourself with it. You're giving yourself that. It's like when you're working out, you need to say to yourself, this is too hard. This is too hard. Instead of saying this is too hard, say, I wish I were stronger. And when you say, I wish I were stronger, you will rise to the occasion of that extra rep. When you say, I want to eat healthy, you will rise to the occasion of wanting to, I want to eat healthy. Okay, so this is the perfect exercise. I want to eat healthy. Okay, good. I want to eat healthy. What can I do? What actions can I take to bring that goal about? I can get a chef. I can learn to cook. I can cook every Wednesday and Sunday for the week and make pots of soup and such. I can, whatever those actions are, and you take actions rather than inject yourself with your own problem, which is what we love to do. There's also the thing of like, what is it doing for you? I've had that problem with sweets and lack of discipline and eating. I love carbohydrates. I love sugar. And then I've asked myself, that's a fair question. What am I getting out of this thing that is not good for me? What am I getting out of it? Well, it's comfort. I'm comforting myself. This has been a hard 3 years for many, many people. This is a form of comfort. It's familiar. It's a dopamine hit,
Mm-hmm.
um, but that doesn't really help me. I like to understand things, and I like that question of why, and it's okay. But the only thing that's going to help you is, this is what I want, and these are the steps I'm going to take to make it happen. And I recently said to myself, because I'm 73 years old, I've gained weight. I've gone through the whole menopausal thing and gained weight and not be able to get it off. And I thought, I wrote a book. It took me 3 years. I've created a 16 independently with my husband as a director, created a 16-part series with no studio, no outside money, nothing. Surely I can take care of my own health so that I have a new 5-month-old grandbaby, and I want to be around as long as I can to see him. So I made those lists, and what can I do? And you find the thing you love. I love Pilates because I used to be a dancer, so I go to Pilates 3 times a week. I hired a trainer. People say, "What do you want for your birthday?" I said, "Trainer, to put money in the training thing, because I need the trainer, because I need a babysitter to come to the house.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's not going to get done. So I know I'm going to go to Pilates, this, and this. Now I know the trainer is going to come. Now I'm getting more independent with that and stretching out into other kinds of exercises. That's the exercise part of it. And then I discovered, you have to discover for yourself. For me, intermittent fasting is very good, but I don't do it like most people do, from 6 o'clock to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then they don't start eating till 10, like it's 12, 13, 14, 16 hours. I eat the other way around. I eat the last meal at, say, 2, my last large meal at 2. I have a coffee at maybe 4, and then I don't eat until 8 the next morning.
I do intermittent
So,
fasting as well. I eat around 3 o'clock for the first time
yeah,
and give myself a 4-hour
yeah,
window
yeah.
when I'm
And
doing
then
it, when I've got the discipline to
when
do
you're
it.
doing
Yeah.
it, but you have to commit to it. And so then sometimes you have to make charts and go, I did it today, I did it today. We like those games. We like gold stars. It's okay to give yourself a gold star.
Yeah, I
But
used to
we
like
have
that. Yeah.
to move. You have to move. Your body has to move, and you have to eat. You have to feed your body. It's a miracle. Your body is a miracle. I just watched my daughter give birth and watch this little creature go from 8 pounds to 18 pounds. And it's happening so fast, this miraculous body that knows what to do.
Mm.
It's an entity, it's a lesser entity, but we need to be grateful for it, have gratitude that your body is as healthy as it is, and be kind to yourself in that way. Be kind to your body.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I will take from what
Yeah.
you've said, and a lot
And
of the
find
things you
out
said.
what you like to do to move, because maybe it's rowing. In England they row on the water, it's beautiful. Maybe it's hiking. Whatever, you have to start with what you love to do in movement. Don't
But I
try to
used
do
to.
something you don't like.
Well, I used to love gymnastics. I used to do gymnastics. So
Hmm.
I thought about going back to gym. I make schedules. I have schedules going back for the last 3-4 years maybe of dance classes I was going to go to, where the gymnastics fit in. The whole thing. Monday I'm going to do this. Tuesday I'm going to do this. Wednesday I'm going to do this,
Yeah.
and I don't do any of it. I've got boards
Yeah.
over there where I write it all out and I say this is what I'm going to do. Then I don't do any of it.
I'm going to show you something. This is the bottom line to my teaching. My students had this made for me. It's a bumper sticker, because we all have that. We all have it. You're thinking too much.
Hmm.
So you spend too much time On the I can't go this morning because no, you just do it anyway. Just bypass the ego, which is talking to you and wants control.
Mm-hmm.
Bypass it and pick up the keys and get in the car. But I'm not dressed for dance class. It doesn't matter, you know. And when you go to class, every class I go to at the end of class, I thank myself for showing up.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
here's another thing. There's an exercise in the book. I don't know if you've gotten to it, but it says, find a picture of yourself as a child that you love. So this is a picture of myself as a little
Oh,
girl, and a lonely little girl
yeah.
on the river, on the Delaware. And everything I do for her. I give to her. So I go to class for her. I sit down and write for her. I do it anyway for her. And then in the end of whatever it was that I accomplished, that I set out to do, she says, "Thank you for showing up."
I love
So
that.
it's being kind to yourself. It's giving to that, because that child is in all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So your scheduling is fantastic. Your intention is being bypassed by bad mental habits.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Yeah.
Then it's very simple. See, the truth is very simple. Lies are complicated. So you have to give yourself all these lies in order not to show up at the dance class. Because I guarantee if you show up at 10 dance classes, you won't miss dance class again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's getting started.
I think that's right. It's getting that momentum back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will do that. I will do that. And I will let you know. I'll send you a message and let you know that I've started.
Yes, please do.
I will.
Also about gymnastics. So you could really do gymnastics. You could twirl yourself in
I
the air and
started
land
late.
on your
Yeah,
feet.
I could. Yeah, I started late, but I could do it. Yeah.
Okay, so your body remembers that. So it's mourning that. You killed a competence. That's not kind.
Mm-hmm.
You had a competence. And then, we do that because it's a reflection of what we feel others have done. Oh, it's not this person didn't believe in me. So how can I believe in me? How can I do it anyway? Because this person didn't believe in me, and we go into all kinds of complications. It's all very complicated. Just get up and go.
Yeah, I will. I
Yeah.
will.
Okay. Good. Good.
Um, Something that's probably connected to that actually is um one of the things I wanted to ask you was about trauma and the arts. So, what is the impact of the arts on a traumatized person? And that's a big
What is
question.
the impact of the arts on a traumatized person?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
I
someone
think
who
there's too many
engages,
answers,
uh,
to that.
someone who engages in an artistic practice, such as an actor, writer, painter, someone who, um, if they're learning a craft, but they've had a lot of trauma from their younger years. It, so this is why I asked this question. When I was younger, I had such severe self-esteem issues that I couldn't look anybody in the eyes. I could barely speak to somebody. So I spent the majority of my formative years just with my hands in my pocket, my head down like that, because I couldn't speak to anybody. So I started acting classes so that I could get some self-confidence. And it really helped. It got me to a certain point. But the problem was, as I continued acting classes, I came I came across narcissistic teachers, loads of
Yes.
them,
Oh, they're terrible.
especially with
There's
acting
so many
classes.
bad acting teachers. There's
Yeah.
so many.
Well, they traumatize you. They make your life difficult. They
Yeah,
make
they
you.
do.
They try to destroy you and destroy your confidence. And many times I left an acting class, brave face. As soon as I left the class, I burst into tears and just cried my way home. That was I had a movement teacher who was just a terrible person, just a terrible person. And he was obviously, he was an older guy, obviously flirting with these girls that were in their 16, 17 years old, um, and just didn't care about the guys and didn't have any time for vulnerable people. if you looked a bit vulnerable, he had no time for you, because he made your life so difficult that when you need to put yourself out there and be vulnerable, how can you put you feel so I felt so unsafe in that environment that I couldn't perform, and I was debilitated. And then he would kind of toy with me and make me feel humiliate me, and then I would leave the class thinking, well, I'm just never going to put my hand up to nominate myself or anything again. And for some reason, the other people in the class didn't see what was happening to me.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. We have all experienced trauma, some more than others. Um, Trauma is something you have to kind of take out and allow to have its truth, and then we have to let it go, because otherwise we are a victim to it our whole lives.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be the intended person. This ends now. This happens. You know, I used to say to my students when they would cry, and I would say, cry harder. And they would look at me like, are you mocking me? And I would go, no, cry harder, push it, act it, fake it, sob, because I wanted them to get control of their own emotion. We think, well, I mean, our emotions are bigger than we are. We can't control our emotions. You can absolutely control your emotions. Actors are the first one to know this because, you know, they cry. What do? They run to the mirror to look at what it looks like. So, you know, they want to know what the human condition looks like. So we talk ourselves in to things and victim stances in order to limit ourselves. And part of the reason I wrote the book is to have people stop limiting themselves by, I can't do that because of this, and I can't do that because, what is it that you want to do? What are the steps that will get you there? There's a whole chapter on what's the difference between a goal and a dream and a fantasy, and how do I get it? You know, if your dream is to go to New York, then you go, okay, where in New York do I want to live? And you pick the neighborhood, and then you go shopping for your apartment, and you find your apartment, and you go, okay, the apartment that I want I'm gonna have to make at least $4,000 a month. Okay, how can I make $4,000 a month in New York? And that's a whole list of things. Okay, what are the actions that I take to get those things? We get things by doing.
I think this is a common pattern here. I think what I haven't been doing in the last few years is living on purpose. Prior to this, years ago, when I did my degree in acting and everything, I did live on purpose. I consciously used the law of attraction. I was very into Abraham Hicks and Louise
Yeah.
Hay, and I did all of that work, and it worked. You know, I had, you know, I was creating, manifesting the most amazing things. I think in the last few years, what's happened is I've become quite disillusioned and solitary. I've become much more, I've lost faith. I used to be such an optimistic person and believed in humanity. I'm Aquarius. I'm a typical Aquarius. But I don't know. I feel like I've lost faith in a lot of people. I've been
Well,
since 2018.
forgive me, but you've allowed yourself to lose faith.
Yes, I'm fully in charge. I'm fully in control of the choices that I've made. I'm aware that these are choices that I've made. So yeah, I completely take the responsibility for that.
And to hear what's going, because I just heard one of the things that you say to yourself. One of the things you say to yourself is, it's too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Do you say that to yourself? It's too hard.
Sometimes, yeah.
This is too hard. This is too hard. And a lot of people during the pandemic are, this is too hard. Well, if you say this is too hard, it's too hard, you know?
I'm going to say something now. I'm going to take this out. I want to edit this part out. Problem I have, Jocelyn, is because, by the way, this interview was not meant to be like this. I was supposed to be asking you about other things, but it's turned into a bit of a therapy session, isn't it? So I'm sorry about that.
Well,
But
no, it's, yeah, I'm a teacher, you know, so if someone gives me something, I'm gonna do what I can to help.
and actually, I am extremely empathic, and I was able to see like the outlines of ghosts when I was a child, and I was just, you know, I'm a Muslim, but I was a psychic child, and I could do
Yeah.
all of this weird astrology stuff, and I
Yeah.
didn't fit in anyway. I'm a gay Muslim, um, but my brother's also gay, but he's sort of more mainstream. I'm so not mainstream gay anything, you know. It just, I don't know how to put it. I never fitted in anywhere. And what's happened in
No.
the last few years is I've lost a lot of friends because of the way that I think, the things that I believe, and I don't speak to my family at all anymore. They have been so shocking to me that you would not believe. I mean,
No, I would believe.
yeah,
I would believe. But you know, Adeel, it's Adeel. Am I saying it right?
yeah.
Adeel.
Zakariya
You
Adeel,
know,
but
you
Adeel's
you
my name.
you Zakariya. I knew a Zakariya from Africa many, many years ago. So when
Yeah,
I heard Zakariya, it's the only time I've ever heard that name. Anyway, I wanted to tell you, Adeel, you came in here you came for a very special purpose. And like me, you were an empath born into a ridiculous situation for an empath. It's hard enough. You know, in the book, I have a whole scale: empath on this side and
I
this
saw
on
that.
this side.
I saw that.
When I was, I passed out in every elevator in
I
Manhattan
read
because
that. Yeah.
whenever my circumference was people, it was too much
I
information came
resonate with that.
in.
I can't be in
Yeah,
crowds. I don't go to concerts. I can't be even.
you
I
can.
rarely go to the
It's
theater. It's too
too
much for me.
much. Yeah,
I
it's
never
too
really
much.
knew what that was, but it's when you. I literally just read that like a few days ago, and I thought that's it. That's it. That's what it
Yeah,
is. It's too much
I
energy.
I I want to say to you, you have something you have to write. You're here to write something, a book that hasn't been written yet.
A
Like
book
my
or a
book,
TV
you
show.
need to shine. Maybe it's a TV show, but you're here to write something that is going to help.
Hmm.
Um, because you're an empath, you have, of course, knowledge that other people don't have. You're resonating on all kinds of levels. So you can be resonating very high and you can be
Mm,
resonating very low at the same time.
yeah.
And it's very important for you to meditate so you can create your own space. Because if you don't have your own space as an empath, you're just going to be bowled over by the biggest energy, the biggest, closest other energy other than
Yes, that
yours.
happens,
So you
unfortunately.
have to, part of the reason that you, in a very difficult way, you've created this alone space for yourself is that you need to learn to be in your own space so that you can't be at effect to other energies and lower vibrations that come in, and that
Hmm.
you learn to believe in yourself and be kind to yourself and put yourself first because nobody else did.
This is my life
So,
lesson. I mean, this is what I've been trying to do
yeah,
for all my life. But
yeah.
putting myself
This
first
is
is
why you
so
were
hard.
attracted to me. This is why you reached out to me, is to get this message today.
Yeah, yeah,
So, this child, everything I do for her because nobody did for her.
yeah.
So
Nobody
only
did for
I
me.
can honor her. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
So
was
I have
bullied by
to
my
honor her in that
siblings.
way.
They made fun of me and just destroyed my confidence. Called me all kinds of names, but it's in the
Yeah.
it's in the past. So I just need to, this thing about creating, like, focusing on what you can do. I used to do that, but and I still do, but I don't act on it. Whereas before I used to act on it. Now I
Hmm.
just feel like, what difference does it make if I do or if I don't? Who cares? Like, what, I've lost the will to live almost. Um,
Yeah. You've
that's what I'm struggling
dropped
with.
down. Yeah. Yeah. Because you're still at effect to others,
What do you
period.
mean? What do you mean?
You're still hurt by the lack of communication from the family. You're still hurt by their atrocious behavior toward you. I
Yeah.
have a sister who won't speak to me. I have a lot of people who won't speak to me. Now, you wouldn't think that of me, right? I don't
Mm,
think that of me, but I go, I think my list of people who don't speak to me is a little bit too long. That's quite a list. This
mm.
best friend, this sister, this brother,
I
they
have a
don't
best
speak
friend.
to me.
Well, I have a best
But
friend who also stopped as well, and
yeah,
that's also really hurt. I mean,
But it's very important time, because I realized with that best friend, that was the only person I used, that person to kind of complain to, and just one person, because she was of a lower tone. I would then behave in that's how we communicated a lot at that level.
mm,
And she reinforced that in me, which was not good for me.
no.
So when I observe these people and I say to myself, do you want to reach out? Do you want to heal that? Do you want to forgive them? I go, I forgive them. I don't want to reach out. And then I get new people in my life.
Hmm.
That's not very good for me. That's not good for me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna resurrect that relationship, because it's not good for me. And part of being, a big being, you're a big being. You have more awareness than most people on the planet. And that's lonely and
Yeah.
sometimes scary. But part of it is, you must learn autonomy. You must develop this relationship, because it's been with you your whole life. You write books on astrology, you're intuitive, you're an empath. You have had this conversation, you are being given this guidance. You need to acknowledge it more and develop it more and be more grateful for it. And then it will begin to point you and the universe in the directions that you need to go to fulfill your purpose.
Hmm.
Um, you know,
I've written
they
this.
talk about
Sorry.
children
Sorry.
coming, really high conscious children coming in, and all the suicides in teenage. Those suicides are because, they agreed to come in, and then they went, no, this is a mess.
Mm,
So this control of your own thinking. Like, I was just talking to someone, and I went into tears about the state of the planet. It's very distressing, Adeel. I
mm,
understand, but we can't. We're here to bring light. If When we feel that way, we add to the collective of the dark. And all we need to do is breathe in light, breathe out peace. We need to be the light. Because
mhm.
when you're the light and when I'm the light, that is 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times one dark unit. You know what I mean? A light
Mhm.
unit is 10,000 times more than
Yeah.
a dark unit. So you need to find a way to be the light that you are. I know that sounds very new agey,
No, no, but I of course I understand what you're saying. But I am new
overspoken.
agey. But
Yeah,
so I think maybe this is why I've reached out to you, is because I'm sinking,
yeah.
and I don't want to. I've reached out to I'm starting my counselling not next week, but the week after that. So I am sort of trying to get myself back up again. Um,
Are
yeah,
you
and maybe
walking? Do you look at nature? Are you in
yeah.
London? Where are you?
Yeah, I am in London, but I'm in South London.
Okay,
I do. I mean, I walk the
okay.
dog all the time. We go to beautiful places. That really helps. That really
Yes.
helps.
And to
Um,
really, when you go to those beautiful places, to observe and breathe it in. You can communicate with trees, they just not in English.
I always did. But I would touch it. I would hug them when nobody's
Yeah,
around. I was
yeah,
like that anyway. Always been that way.
yeah.
When you wrote the empath scale and the highly sensitive scale, I ticked all of the list of the empath thing.
Hmm.
I mean, I feel very
Hmm.
connected to animals. I love llamas. I love giraffes. Anywhere when I go
Hmm.
on holiday, I go to places where I can see other animals, sea turtles.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll go to places where I can. There are certain animals that
Do
I just
those
adore.
things. Make your joy list. That's part of your joy list. Is walking the dog in beautiful places. You need to do your joy list.
I
10
will.
things.
I will.
10 things.
Yes, 10
And then
things.
you need to put those things on the schedule, and then you need to do it
Do it
anyway.
anyway. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Susan Jeffers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just bypass the mind and do it anyway.
Okay. I
You
will
know.
do.
I mean,
I will do. I will. I promise you I will. I feel like this is
good.
a wake up call almost. So I will.
Yeah.
Narcissistic teacher, I've got written down here. Why do the arts attract them? People, and also people like, narcissistic teachers, mentors, leaders, Josh Whedon, Harvey Weinstein. I had a director that destroyed my confidence on a sketch show I did back in 2007, and just destroyed my confidence. And I didn't work properly since then. I stopped acting properly.
Two things come to mind. I mean, of course that exists, and it's a power game. People, they're vampires, emotional vampires, and they feel by putting somebody down, they take a step up. But that's very unsatisfying to me, that answer. I really thought, as you said it, I thought, because they don't have any examples. You're not their example. They needed an example from a teacher, a mentor. We live by examples. Because I am an example of what you already believe today, and bringing that back out in you and touching on that and lighting that up in you. You have an example, so you can move forward in a different way. Harvey Weinstein didn't have any examples. If we studied his examples, they are probably, people who would do anything to get what they want, including hurting other people. The misogyny against women and the whole thing against women is just, that's just a power thing. I mean, this is what I tell women. Men are so lovely. They're really lovely. Look, there's no competition here. Women bear children. Women raise humanity. Women are it, man. They have all of the power. Plus, a man can't go, 2 months without being able to fuck a woman, So women are holding all the camels. And that can be threatening. So I tell women, you have to leave ballroom. You have to let them, be men. And yes, we've outgrown the kind of, drag you to the teepee and, thing, woman. But they're still men, and their nature is to protect and to provide, and you have to honor that, and you have to honor their egos, and you have to be patient. It's just more on the woman, but that's how that is. So I don't even know what the question is. I went off so far.
The narcissistic teacher, what attracts them to the arts? Why do you get this archetype of this person, this power abuser
in the arts? Yeah. Well, I think they're spoiled talents. I mean, Harvey Weinstein knew a good movie when he saw it.
Definitely.
But he was a spoiled man, so he had the arts in him. He just went to the dark side.
Josh Whedon is amazing. He's so talented. As a writer, as a showrunner, he's phenomenal. But all these things have come out about him, how he treats women and how he treats even the guys on his show, just not very well.
But I also feel like women are, this thing of like, I went up to the hotel room and he raped me in his hotel room. I'm like, darling, if you go to a producer or a director or a studio head's hotel room, you better expect that he's trying to get into your panties. Yeah. That's just stupid. You learn that at 13 when Perry Stevens, takes you off on his motorcycle to his seedy apartment above his parents' house. You learn that early. You have to learn to say no. I don't buy it. You say no, and you smell. I'm from New York. In New York, you smell trouble. You work as a waitress in bars. You see it come in the door. It's not the guy who's sitting at the bar saying, "I'm coming over the bar. I'm coming over the bar. I'm going to fight you." It's not that guy you got to worry about, because that guy's never coming over the bar. The guy who announces he's coming over the bar is never going over the bar. It's the guy, he walks in the place and you go, that smells wrong. You're walking down the streets of New York, somebody's coming toward you, go, that smells wrong. You cross the street. It's instinct. And part of what I'm trying to do in the book is to sharpen people's instinct and, stand for it and move appropriately from their own instincts, because there's no lie in that kind of instinct. That's truth.
Yeah.
you know.
I think one of the things your book does is it really attunes you to your body and your senses.
Yes,
Uh,
hopefully, yeah.
yeah. That's
Sensory,
yeah,
sensory work, yeah,
yeah, really good.
yeah,
There's a
yeah,
quote that I've heard you say, there's something that you can do better than anyone else. Your job is to find that.
yeah.
Um,
That's Emerson, though, right?
I
Is
just saw
that?
you do. I saw you say it on a show somewhere. I didn't know if it was Emerson,
Oh,
but
okay, okay. I think it comes from Emerson,
okay.
that, people try to live the wrong lives. They're living, what they think they should do, what somebody else thinks they should do, what comes easy to them, as opposed to what makes their heart, when they know, in your heart, I'm doing the right thing. This is the right thing to do. This is the right path.
Hmm.
If you don't have that in life, then you're at sea. You're adrift. You're going to be, moved by anything that comes your way, particularly if you're an empath.
Hmm.
It's important to be able to have that instinct about self. And, women have very strong instincts. So I would say, a lot of this Me Too is just bullshit. I
I
don't
think
write
so
that
too.
story. I don't write that story in the book. I've been accused by women, by the way, of being hating women. I love women. I think women are spectacular, but
Mm,
I'm not going to help them be less than themselves. I'm
that's
not going to help
wonderful.
them be victims. I'm not. I
Yeah,
don't believe in
absolutely,
victimhood. I don't, and I don't want it near me. I'm just like, get it away
completely.
from me.
I stood up to a queer choir. Was part of this queer choir, and I stood up in front of them. They were making fun of Jordan Peterson, and I said, "But have any of you actually read any of his books, or really spent some time to listen to what he has to say?" They didn't answer that, but I was defending him because of the discussion around pronouns, and I was dating a drag queen at the time, so it wasn't coming from a place of ignorance or transphobia. It was coming from a place of listen to what the man has to say, and don't judge before you've done your own independent research.
Mhm.
Um, I was kicked out of that queer choir faster than you can imagine. So it's just
So you were not meant to be in that queer choir, but what you're meant to see is you are a person who stands up for the truth.
that's
You
what
are
my
a
name means,
person
by the
who
way.
has,
That's what my
oh,
name
oh,
means. Adeel means one who
okay.
stands for the truth.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But stands for the truth. There's knowing the truth, but to stand up to a queer choir and say, this is not right, takes courage.
Yeah. I've done that my entire life.
Yeah,
I took it wasn't even a conscious thing. It's just what I've always done. And the
yeah,
name Adil means man of justice, one who stands for the truth.
yeah. That's what
So,
Jocelyn is justice.
oh really?
And yes, Jocelyn is about justice. It means justice.
Oh wow.
Um, so yeah, so there you go. You have to stand up for you now. You have to apply that same thing to yourself. You've let yourself go a little bit
I
and
have.
and you know, forget the whole I have to mourn that, oh, I was unkind to myself, oh, I let myself go, oh, I didn't stand up for myself, all these things I don't believe. Don't get into the psychological tornado of it because you'll just stay in it. That's the ego trying to keep you down. You know what I mean? Just go, oh, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Hmm.
That's how you quit smoking. You say, "Oh, I don't do that anymore." You don't
Do
like go, "Oh, smoking so hard to quit the thing I want."
yeah. Do you know about Alfred Adler, about his brand of psychology?
I don't think so.
Because you seem to have an Adlerian way about you, in the way that you think. It's very Adlerian. It's very focused on let's make the improvement. How can we get out of this negative thinking and negative pit that we've got ourselves stuck in? Let's get ourselves out of that. Let's change the thinking. He's all about that. I think you'll
Yeah,
resonate with
yeah,
him.
change your thinking. Well, there are so many people on the same line of thinking right now. This is a beautiful thing that's going on the planet,
Mm,
which is why we're talking. There are many people that it's come to them in their own way, but it's all coming from source. It's coming
For
from,
sure. The
it's
divine.
outside self, but it's inside self at the same time. Sometimes I
Hmm.
say it, but it's like outside self. The impulse is outside self, but really it has to run through you. It's inside self as well.
Did you say did I ask you about your acting style with the teachings, the acting that you teach? What style is it that you kind of teach? It was a mix, wasn't it? You mentioned that it was because of where you trained with your
Okay, so
teacher.
my belief with acting is that you teach technique first. You
Yeah,
give actors technique so they can walk and talk at the same time. You know, people don't know what acting is. They think, oh, well, they learn the lines, and some of them are very good, and others are just not very good. And that's where they stop. But acting is like juggling. You have to move and you have to behave and you have to
hmm,
memorize words. And then you have to be in the moment and connect and behave and then let those lines that you
that's
know
you.
arrive as if you have never said them before.
Hmm.
And the way to do that is to be in the moment. So all the techniques are around that. First, you teach technique, and you take someone who's not an actor and you make them an actor, and they feel like, oh, I'm acting. You know, I'm doing these things. I'm having this thought, but I'm saying these words. I'm saying these words, but I'm doing this behavior. And I like to build opposites into those because it's human behavior to lie. So our body is telling the truth and our words are lying.
Hmm.
So all of those things have to kind of happen at the same time. And then beyond that, how do we go from, okay, that is an actor who knows what they're doing, to that is an inspired actor? And that happens in the choices that you make. So within that technique, you are asking questions and you are making choices that reverberate in you, that are inspired, that, you know, and you go after that inspiration. You actively say, okay, well, where does, if you're a writer, okay, well, where does this scene take place? Well, the writer tells me it takes place here. If you're the writer, you can invent the place. So you put that down, it takes place in New York, and then you go, well, where could it take place? You know, it could take place on a boat. Why did I say boat? And then when you say boat, something moves in you and you go, oh, boat. And you write down boat. And then you ask yourself, what's boat about? You know, and then an answer will come in. So it's kind of like, you know, going on a little hunt
Mm.
and asking things until they move in you.
But it's a
And
guided hunt,
that's
isn't
the
it? Because
inspiration.
this inspiration is with you at the time when you're doing it, when you're writing it. It's a guided hunt
Yeah.
because as you're writing,
Yeah.
before you would know it, these ideas or images or flashes just come to you as you're writing. So you just
Yeah.
you capture them as they come.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, are you
Interesting.
journaling every day?
I used to.
Yeah.
I used to.
You used to do a lot of things. There are 10 things you used to do that if you just did it anyway, put them on the schedule and did it anyway,
I've got a bag
your
full of my old
life
books
would
upstairs
turn
of my old
around.
journals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Journaling is very, very important because, particularly for you, because you're on the hunt of what you should do right now.
Mm.
Or everything that's come to this point, you know, you like the podcast, you're not going to give that up because you get to meet people and you really love that and you're good at it. But there's something you're meant to do right now. So you have to kind of, sometimes you have to clean the house up a little bit to
Well,
get started.
I did write a screenplay in 2018, which I sort of cleaned up recently, and I've submitted it to some competitions. It's got great feedback, but it doesn't get shortlisted. And I think the reason why it doesn't get shortlisted, I showed it to another writer friend of mine, and she told me that it's a rarity to see a script about Asian people even in America. And so you've written something with gay South Asian people in the UK with a very specific vernacular. And so you've sent that to Hollywood. I mean, Hollywood's not going to be able to understand that. So they can see it's a well constructed script, and they've given me great feedback. This is the confusion. Great feedback doesn't get shortlisted. So
Yeah, write
I
another. That's pretty narrow. I mean, there is everything everywhere all at once, but that's pretty narrow audience. there. You're looking for universal. The reason this book is doing well is because it strikes a universal chord, a universal truth in people. And film needs to do that. And so if you say, what is this about? Is it about South Asians? It can't be just about South Asians or gay South Asians, because that's too narrow.
Too niche.
It's too niche. But if it's about oppression, you use that world to tell the story of oppression, people will connect to it.
It's a rom-com. It's basically My Best Friend's Wedding, but the gay South Asian musical gay version of it. Yeah.
Oh, it's a play.
No, it's a screenplay. You think it's a play?
I think it's a play.
Oh, okay. Well, that will be easy enough to put together.
I think it's a play because then you have all these wonderful, I hope you have some transvestites and some wonderfully, and then some purpose of, we're all just people. These are just performers, What is it, transvestite? It's a person who loves to perform the beauty of what they see as women, the extreme beauty of women. I want that. I want to feel that. I want to get into that. I want to play with that,
There is one character is a drag queen and works with drag queens. So there's lots of drag queens already in the show.
That's good.
Of Indian music and dance.
Birdcage. Why was Birdcage? Why was that? Look at that again. Why is this a hit? What are the universal things? What is it that every man, could connect to Birdcage? And part of it was, it was parents who loved their kid and wanted the best for them and didn't understand them, but they wanted the best. And so
I love the Birdcage movie. Nathan Lane is wonderful. He's the same chart as me, actually. He's a sheep Aquarius, which is what I am.
Yeah. Well, I would write that as a play and give yourself a part. Okay.
That's relatively, I've put plays on before. I've written plays and performed them before, so I can do that. That's not a problem. Yeah. All right, I'll do that. It won't be that hard to do, actually.
But look at that universal, what is the story here that everyone can relate to?
Yeah. Well, it's the unrequited love thing. It's the fact that he's been in love with his best friend for years, and it's only now that he's about to lose him that he realizes just how much. And so
it's a secret love too. It's a secret love. Yeah.
Secret love.
It's a forbidden love. Those are universal.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll do that.
So then you put that in other places in the play. So this relationship is one kind of unrequited love. This is a forbidden love. This is so that it's all, the play is now about something because all of the different A storyline, B storyline, C storyline are all harmonics to the same theme or message.
Yeah. So the way I've set it up at the moment is he says in the beginning, you can't be friends with somebody and you can't be friends with somebody who's in love with you. And that's the thing that we see in storyline A, B, and C. Can you be friends with somebody who's in love with you? No. Yes or no?
You can't. No.
You can't. It's not possible. No.
No, because friends have to come to the table equally. So then you have to have that part of it too.
Yeah. So
maybe they come together equally and then they can have another kind of relationship.
I've got two endings on this. I've got one where they do get together and one where they don't. My original ending was that they didn't get together, but my literary manager encouraged me to change that because it was more cinematic to have them come together at the end. I'm thinking about changing it back to my original ending because it's more real, it's more honest.
That they don't get together?
Yeah.
No, I think they should get together through truth. The one in this scene where they finally admit, I've been in love with you since we were 6, which is a very hard thing to deliver.
That is the truth.
Because
That's
the
actually
truth
in
is
the script.
exposed, then it can change.
But they met when they were 6 in the script. That's crazy that you said that. You
Not,
channeled that.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh, that's
So,
interesting. Okay,
yeah,
all right, I'll do that. There's another confirmation there that that's the way to go
yeah.
with that one. Okay, I'll do that.
And then, what is the response? That's the call. And what is the response? What is that other character? Is that other character, does he cry? Does he say, thank you for telling me that? That must have been really hard for you. I'm really sorry. I'm thinking of all the ways I must have hurt you. And so it looks like he's saying, I love you too. But he says, either I just can't, or I love you too. Let's try it. I don't know. But I would rehearse both, and I would definitely make it a stage production.
Okay, I'll make it a stage production. I'll keep
Yeah.
you updated with what happens. I'm quite excited about this.
Okay, good.
You're not the first person
Good.
to have said that. I've got a few writer friends, and they've suggested that to me before. I'm naturally I trained in screenwriting, and that's what I naturally want to do. But this is easily done.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll do
And
that.
the theater needs it, and it's fun, and you can workshop it and get people involved and cast it and do readings and bring that life into your life, that
I will do.
creativity into your life.
I know lots of Asian actors as well, so it would be fun to do it with my friends.
Good.
Mm.
Good.
Let me just ask you one or two last questions, and then we can wrap it up.
Okay.
No, let's leave that one. I vowed never to underestimate another person by believing what someone else thought about them. This is what you wrote about when your brother told you about your neighbor.
Yeah.
So
Tom Canal.
how have you managed to keep that up through the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Because
We
it's
practice that. It's a practice. These things are all practices. We practice that to such a degree that I was walking to dinner when my daughter was very young. She was about 6. And we were walking to dinner with her parents. So there were 4 adults and the 2 kids kind of behind us. And I could hear them chatting. And their son was telling my daughter, oh, my cousin is coming to town. And Samantha, my daughter, said, uh-huh. And she said, yeah, well, I hate my cousin. And Sam said, uh-huh. And I said, because, he comes into my life like this. And he just, he was complaining about this cousin. And my daughter at 6 years old turned to him and said, well, why are you telling me? I think you need to talk to your cousin. And I lost it. I was so proud of her. But
what's her date
the
of birth, if you don't mind me
practice is
asking?
usually, pardon?
What's your daughter's date of birth? What are her signs?
Oh, she's a Capricorn. She's 1/14/87.
A 1/14/87. So she's the Tiger as well, Tiger Capricorn. 2 charts
Ah,
before you.
ah,
Yeah, she's Tiger Capricorn.
she's beautiful. And her son, who was just born, who's from outer space. I mean, Adeel, this child locks eyes with me. I've never seen a baby. He's 5 months old. He locks eyes with me. I mean, we call it eyeball love. I mean, he just is in there until we just get very still and look at him, and we go to such a depth that it's as if our souls touch, and then he goes, oh, like it's
Oh,
too
how
much.
funny. Well, when was he born?
He was born in October. When was Jones born? Oh God, how can I have
He's another
forgotten?
tiger. There's a lot of tigers in your family.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
he was
either
born
Tiger
in
Libra or Tiger
October.
Scorpio. So Tiger Libra is what Louise Hay is. Tiger Scorpio is what Leonardo DiCaprio is.
Oh, this child is very spiritual. He's been around a long time.
Is he end of October or beginning of October?
He's end of October.
The Scorpio.
When was he born? I can't believe it. Yeah, no, he was born in October. He was born October 21st.
Oh, so he's that. Okay. So actually, he's Libra. He's a Louise Hay chart. Very, very
Mhm.
generous, very giving, very spiritual.
Very
Um,
spiritual. Yeah.
they often come with hard lives in the early years. Maybe he
Yeah.
won't have that, but women more so than I mean, that's I don't want to pitch that at all. I mean, I don't want to say that's
Yeah.
what's going to happen, but like, but
No, he's
women
maybe.
in particular,
Yeah.
people like Louise Hay, those lessons they learn send them on a certain trajectory because they need that because
Yes.
of the spiritual work they do later on in life.
Yes. Yes. That's how I feel about my life. I wouldn't change it because I wouldn't have learned what I learned and be where I am.
Yeah.
But yes, to practice that is simply to say, I don't know that to be true, you
Hmm.
know, or you need to, when people complain to me about other people, I say, you're talking to the wrong person. You need to work that out with that person. This will accomplish nothing
Mm.
except you'll feel badly because trashing someone important to you.
Well, you know that the tiger has a very independent spirit. They're kind
Hmm.
of the lone warrior. They don't rely on other people. It's
Hmm.
their way. I wrote a poem. I'm going to read you a little poem, but it's very short. Don't worry. About the tiger, just so that you see, because you're a tiger, your daughter's a tiger, and your grandson's a tiger. So I'm gonna. This relates to all three of you. So it doesn't surprise me at all that your daughter said what she did to that guy who was complaining about his cousin,
Yeah. Yeah.
because this is the tiger spirit. Let me show you. So
But
this
she was
poem
so, I
relates
mean,
to.
at 6 years old, she was so like, really hard with him. I mean, firm. She was firm with him. Why are you talking to me? You need to
Mhm.
talk to your cousin, obviously.
So this is the tiger. I am passion personified with more confidence than I can keep up with. Curiosity has nearly killed me a million times, but I'm quick on my paws and I love the thrill of the game. Calm on the surface, a storm on the inside. Nobody understands the enigma that I am. I feel so much, I care so much, but I need my freedom even more. Wealth, status, or fame rarely impress me, as these cat eyes see bullshit for bullshit. Earn my respect, give me the truth, and I'll infuse you with my energy, a rush of a trillion stars that flow from my veins into yours. I can fuel you when you're depleted. I can excite you when drabness threatens. My aliveness revives even the dead. As a feral cat, expect the unexpected, but also know that what I really want is to be tamed. Actually, I'll never be tamed, but I'll let you think I am. I'm the impulsive, independent improviser, the lone warrior. I trust myself and myself alone. Even if I love you, I'll always be alone in my tigerness. You wouldn't understand. I'm the tiger.
It pretty much says it all.
It's the
It
lone
does.
warrior, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It
They
does.
do like to find things out for themselves and not rely on other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So I did find that interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Thank you for that.
My
That's
pleasure.
beautiful.
It's in your book that I sent you as well. It's in
Okay.
the
Lovely.
yeah. Well, this is a different interview to what I was expecting to have with you. But it's been so wonderful, and I can't thank
Yeah.
you enough for all of the amazing advice you've given me.
Wow.
It's kind of felt like a session, like a therapy session. Um, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. It was like I really needed this.
I'm really enjoyed talking to you, and I'm glad that you're responding that way. You have so much to offer, and many people in the past 3 years. There's been a lot going on, and cry when you need to cry. And then what I say is, cry deep, cry deep, cry quick, cry harder, cry quickly. Get all of that out as much as it needs. 2 hours later, you need to cry again, but get on with it.
Hmm.
Get on with it because life is short and you came here for a purpose and you have a lot to give. You have a lot of light to shine. And so you need to find your ways to do that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just before we go, just a reminder that Jocelyn Jones's book is called Artist, and you can buy it on Amazon. How else can people get in touch with you?
Oh, JocelynJonesStudio.com is my website, and that's where documentary will be available within the month, and also on Instagram, Jocelyn Jones Studio, Facebook, Jocelyn Jones Studio. So Jocelyn Jones Studio is kind of the handle there.
Well, thank you so much. It's been
Thank you,
really,
Adeel.
really lovely and kind of enlightening, and I don't even know what to say, but I'm so grateful to you. Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast, and hopefully we'll see you again. Come back on another one.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a complete joy to talk to you.
Bless you so much. Thank you. And we will see you again next time on the Zakariya Adeel podcast. Thank you for joining me. Bye. Okay.